Okay, I've just pressed. Hi, CAM followers. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Nicki, and I'm really excited to get started on our series of Facebook Lives that we've got set up over today. And it carries on tomorrow night, and then we are going to carry on next week on Wednesday and Thursday with the lovely Barbara Houlding, who you can see next to me here. And she has kindly agreed to come on, and we thought what we would try and do is cover all things hydro, but make it very owner-based. So this is an owner's guide to hydrotherapy. So there will be loads of questions that come up as we go through, and you're very welcome to pop them down in the comments. But I may not come to all those questions this evening because we might be covering, well, we will be covering different topics each time we have a session. So if it's something that I think we're going to cover tomorrow or next week, then I'll just tell you that, and we can do it then. But please do ask away. We will be sharing some links after the live as well. So I'm just going to get started and ask Barbara to just tell us a little bit about herself, if that's okay. Then we will have a little chat, and then we're going to share some information with you as well that, again, you will be able to look at afterwards, after the live. So please don't worry about trying to find it now. We will put all the details either in the comments or after the live. So thank you so much, Barbara, for joining us. Would you just like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for such a lovely introduction, Nicki. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Cam, for inviting me to join you as well. So I'm so excited because I'm very passionate about sharing knowledge and information across everywhere where I work. I think you were really kind and you created a bio which people can see my credentials and they can go onto my website and have a look. But just really to say how grateful I am. I'm deeply grateful and feel really humble that I've had the opportunity to work as a physiotherapist now for nearly 40 years. And I have met and worked and had opportunities to be so inspired by main influences in my industry, both in my human practice as I started off, and then in my canine physiotherapy and canine hydrotherapy practice. And I've just made some long friendships, met some amazing professionals, colleagues, students, postgraduates. It's just been brilliant. And I have two main passions. One is sharing the knowledge and information and sharing clinical skills. And I'm thrilled to support, I feel so privileged to support and help other professionals on their career journey. Be a part of that is so brilliant, and see where they go with it. And my other massive passion is clinical practice. So I have always had a clinical practice right from 1979. And I just love clinical practice. And again, the owners for me are very inspiring. And my base for my clinical practice now is at Canine HS in Suffolk. I work with some amazingly skilled therapists, and I feel very lucky that I found them and they want to work with me. And Sarah, who is my clinical manager, is also watching the chat. So if you've got any questions, you can click on that Notion page. I'm trying to share a poster with you all that will be CAMS forever, but it's an interactive. It's an interactive page. So we depend on you to fill out the questions. So, but just thank you so much for joining us this evening. I really appreciate it. And if I've met you and had the joy of meeting you, please say hi in the chat. If I haven't met you, please put your questions in there and have a look at the poster.
Yeah, so I've just put the link to the poster now on the chat.
So you can watch that on another device, and that poster is like an information poster full of the Q&As we're going to go through over the 4 episodes. And I think, Nicki, are you going to pop it up on the main page?
Yes, I will. I'll have the link on.
Anything else you want to ask me about my sort of career? I just love my job so much. I cannot tell you.
I know initially you started, like you say, in the human world of physiotherapy, and then moved over to the better side. And so what made you decide to do that? What was your interest in dogs that made you think, yeah, this is for me?
Well, I was never going to leave human physiotherapy. I loved my job. But for me, there were 2 big things in my life: dogs and physiotherapy, work-wise I'm talking about. Yeah. And I wanted to make a marriage because I had the aha moment in a June day, a long, long time ago in the summer, where I saw a human patient that I was going to see relate to a dog. And I just thought, why can't we do physiotherapy on dogs? Now, this might sound crazy, but this was before it existed. So I was aware that there was equine practitioners, but no one did dogs. No one in the 70s and 80s. It didn't exist. It was really new. And so even when I came into the animal world, the fact that I stood there and said, you know, I'm going to get through all the courses, but it's the dogs. It was so new. It was very interesting. So, and physiotherapy with dogs, never heard of it. Hydrotherapy, it hadn't really started. So it was in a very interesting time. So I just launched out there and used my, and most people thought I'd had a breakdown, that I left my human practice, because I had very fortunately got to a place. I've been working in the NHS for 16 years. I was a superintendent. I moved into private practice. I had a fantastic community service, and I used it to fund my training to specialize. And at that time, the only route, you know, there was only one route. So now there's so many routes, and you don't have to be a human physio to be a veterinary physio, just like you don't have to be a doctor to be a vet, and you don't have to be a human nurse to be a vet nurse. But at that time, there were very few routes into it. So I was just so lucky. I was very good, very, very grateful. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was obviously the right thing to do, because you've
I love it.
you're still doing it now. So that's always a good sign.
I know, I should have retired years ago, but it's just the best job in the world, and I love it. So I'll keep
somebody's
going
written here, there's somebody written already, hello, lovely to see you looking so well. And I can only assume they mean you, because I don't recognise the name.
I can't actually see the chat, so you're ahead of me on there, so.
It was from somebody called Ash Ponting.
Oh, thank you, Ash. Yes, fantastic. So please do. It's really lovely that you've joined, Ash. That's great. And I think the other thing is, it's just so exciting. Particularly, it's very relevant this last year. Sharing information, sharing knowledge, putting it in a way that's really accessible to owners is so important. So this is my great passion now, is really getting information out to everyone.
Yeah. So what I thought we would do, for anybody that doesn't know CAM that well, there are lots of things going on with CAM. And we have a group called Holly's Army, which is a community of dog owners who have arthritic dogs. And it's there for dog owners to share their thoughts, their experiences, their questions about their arthritic dogs. So we get a lot of questions on Holly's Army about hydrotherapy. Then this is where, when we were planning what we were going to talk about over the next 4 evenings, or the next week as well, I was looking at those questions and trying to group them together so that we try and hit all the questions that people have, and more, hopefully. And I know Barbara's got a lot up her sleeve for us to learn. So this evening we're going to start off with very basic stuff, and probably more for people that have never done hydrotherapy before, or a little bit worried about how do I go about doing this. So really the first question I have is, we've got a dog, we've got an arthritic dog, we're going to our vets, we're doing what we can, thinking, I'm on Holly's Army, somebody has mentioned hydrotherapy. How do I find a hydrotherapist? What do I do?
That's a great question. Are you? I can't see now. I see the comments and lots of people saying hello, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And have they got the poster up? I can't quite see what you're.
Put it up for you. Yeah. So
I think that would be great, because then they can see the poster that they can access, because I can see a lot of questions coming up, which is fantastic. And people from New Zealand, Bridget from the Isle of Mull, welcome. It's fantastic that you've joined. And this is the poster that we've put together to try and answer that. It's a Q&A information poster. It's specifically being designed for CAM, and you can bookmark it, and it is a live poster. So what we're going to do over the 4 episodes, we're going to keep adding everybody's questions. So if you don't get your question answered this evening, we'll get it answered over the 4 episodes. And I promise we will answer everybody's question. So I think the first thing to really highlight is that canine physiotherapy and canine hydrotherapy currently in the UK is unregulated. It's not a regulated profession. And the 2 most important factors for you to access canine hydrotherapy is for it to be safe and for it to be effective. They're the bottom line. There's no negotiation on safety, not with dogs. Okay. No. And we're talking about water, dogs. So this is where it's really hard, because there's so much information, so many people at so many different levels, in so many different places doing it, and they're doing the most wonderful job. But it's for what I'm going to discuss is therapeutic canine hydrotherapy. And you'll find that many canine therapists actually hold multiple qualifications. So they may be a vet who's qualified as a hydrotherapist, who's also qualified as a vet physio, and that is not unheard of. We've got in the professional association I'm a member of, IRVAP, and I'm very privileged and grateful that I'm on the council. We've got so many vet physios who are also qualified canine hydrotherapists, and we've got so many vets who are also qualified vet physios and qualified canine hydrotherapists. So there's so confusing information out there. We've also got the most astonishing, gifted canine hydrotherapists, and they focus on that as well. So, I think this is about finding the best canine hydrotherapist for your dog in your area.
Yeah,
so,
because some of them may not be in your area. So you're going to have to just do what you can.
And you get to choose. You get to choose to which service you're going to. So it doesn't have to be because it happens to be linked to your practice, but that might be a brilliant service for you anyway. So I think this is where, how do I find these people? That's the key thing I've been asked for so many years by owners. How do we find the therapist, and how do we know if this is what they do? So And the canine hydrotherapist you access is a professional, and as a professional, they're on a career journey. So they're obligated. They've got a duty of care to you as an owner and a duty of care to the dog. But they're also obligated to do CPD hours, which is continuing professional development hours every year. They abide by a code of practice. And that's why you can use your search engines into some of the professional associations and registers. But we do not have a regulated industry at the moment. So how do you find a therapist? This is a key thing. So recommendation, it's golden, isn't it? If your friends have been somewhere and they say, they're amazing and they're so friendly and approachable, and they've really made an effort to explain what's going to happen, and it worked for my dog who's really anxious about water, that's a great thing. So a recommendation from friends. Lots of clients who have had positive experiences in canine hydrotherapy. They may be out walking. They may know someone. So your clients, so a lot of our owner clients, have recommended Canine HS to other people, and that's how they found us originally. And vets, I think it's working really closely as part of this multidisciplinary team, the MDT. And even though Canine HS is an independent outpatient service, as it were, not within a framework of a vet's, we've built that trust and confidence of the referring vets around us, because they've got to know us and our service, because we work at building those kind of trusted professional relationships. So the vets are a great place. They may have their own service, but they may also know of other people. So the recommendation is a great start, I think, really.
So you wouldn't suggest just getting onto Google and just Googling away local hydro centre, always go through a vet or a friend first?
You could do that. You could do that. So the next thing would be to look at maybe your professional association searches.
Right.
So they would flag up people who are members of those associations that have had a rigorous kind of robust application form to get in and be a member, and hold all the relevant qualifications and skills, clinical skills and experience to be registered with that group. And again, professionals have choices. So just as our owners have choices of where they would like to go, professionals have choices. And it's a really healthy thing rather than just having like one association. So there's multiple associations that professionals can choose.
Yeah, we can see there's quite a few, aren't there, actually?
Yeah, there are. And there's lots of other physiotherapy professional associations. So I belong to several. I'm just invested in dogs. So anybody who's kind of about dogs, I'm a member of them. It's a bit of a weakness. I'm there. I'll be honest. I'm going to be very frank here. I do have a bias. I'm chair of the Institute of Canine Hydrotherapists. And I'm also very lucky that I'm fortunate enough to be chair and working with an amazing council for IRVAP. So IRVAP have two subgroups. One is the Institute of Canine Hydrotherapists, and one is the Institute of Equine Hydrotherapists. So we do have a very strong foothold in the industry in representing professionals in hydrotherapy. And and there's links on the posters. So people who want more information, they're all live links on the webpage. There's 2 other associations, the Canine Hydrotherapy Association and also the National Association of Registered Canine Hydrotherapists. So, and they've got links to their website, so you can find their therapists on there. You will find quite a few therapists are actually members of multiple groups as well.
Yeah.
And so this is where it gets a bit confusing. There's also some voluntary regulatory bodies. We're not regulated, but we've got 2 voluntary regulatory bodies. And people get very confused. So what's the difference? Or, should I be looking for one or the other? So if I just explain, there's 2 that we've got called RAMP and AHPR. And they, again, equate to, in the human world, my professional association is the Chartered Society of Physiotherapy as a chartered physiotherapist. Okay.
Yeah.
My professional associations that I belong to is a veterinary physiotherapist. I'm a member of IRVAP. I'm a fellow of IRVAP, actually, and I'm also a long-term member of ACPAT. The RAMP and AHPR are my equivalent in my human world of the HCPC. So they are a register where they hold people's names on that register, whereas the professional association, they don't have regulatory powers. They are about supporting and mentoring professionals on their career journey, and they give, appoint them in CPD. They give them open office hours to help them with professional and managerial questions. So my analogy for this that seems to help people is if you think of a law court, and if you think of your defender, the person who supports the person when they've been taken to court, that's your professional association. Whereas if you think of the prosecutor, they're your regulatory bodies like HCPC and like RAMP and AHPR. So there's a difference, and you will have some people who will highlight in their post-nominals that they're members of different associations. So I hope that really helps owners, because it's really tricky for them to know where to go. And then someone says, I'm this person, you've got to be this to be actually, as long as they're associated with a professional association, and they might not be at the moment. They might be non-practicing on maternity leave. They might be a non-practicing member or a practicing member, whereas the regulatory bodies hold practicing member names.
Right. So it might be, you don't have to remember all these things. You can go on,
it's all on the poster.
It's all there, and maybe look at your local hydrotherapist and see what's there, and come back and refer back to this and go, oh yeah, now that makes sense. I'm happy with that. So that's great.
I think what you said, there's other places to search. So you've got your online websites of your local websites in different areas. And very often people have found, the therapist through looking at the different websites of the different services in their area and chosen the one that appeals to them, that sort of has that information that they can relate to. So that's really valuable. Also, social media and CAM, so that's another way you can find about information. And you could find them out by local dog training clubs and groups as well, where people have had experiences and share that. So I feel if you look at multi-resources and then sort of check out your choices, but owners have choices, and that's the most important thing. Yeah.
And we'll come on to in a bit about, what you're going to look for when you actually go and visit a centre, because ultimately you can get all the recommendations, but it's like choosing a school for your child, isn't it? If you go to the school and you think, actually, no, this is not going to suit me, then fair enough, So, these are all just in the initial stages, what you're going to do to try and find your therapist.
And you need to be happy with that. This is a professional relationship, whether you have one with your, you've got a professional relationship with your vet, your physiotherapist, your hydrotherapist. There's a great trust and confidence in their professionalism and the service they're going to provide. So the service they're going to provide, you need to make sure it fits what you're looking for. So if they, if it's a hydrotherapy center and they say they focus on athletic dogs and performance work, perhaps your 14-year-old senior arthritic dog might be more suited to go to somewhere where they say, like, as at Canine HS, we specialize in the senior arthritic dog and neurological cases. So it's finding out the best fit for you at that time, depending on the diagnosis of your dog and what your thoughts are as well. And I do think there's something to consider about locality. you know, it's very difficult for some dogs to travel distances. So
especially
I think you're also,
dogs.
yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So you are trying to find someone nearby so they don't sort of negate any benefit they get from the session by the drive there and back, particularly if they kind of have travel sickness. So I think that's really important. And how are they traveling? You know, are they able to lay out fully, or are they having to be sort of crammed in an area, or the owner might have a back issue and they can't lift them in and out? Well, you know, so there's all these things to think about as well.
Yeah. I mean, there are now some mobile hydrotherapy units, aren't there?
Oh, yeah. Well,
we'll come on to that. That's fine.
That might be in one of the other episodes. That's a little bit emotive. But I think as long as that they've got sanitized water and it's safe and effective, you know, so I just think the safety is not something we can compromise with. And we're going to look at water quality. So that's something that owners really need to look at, is the quality of the water and the safety of the water, because canine hydrotherapists are the most incredibly hardworking individuals, and they are passionate about their water control and quality, as well as the service that they provide.
Yeah. So then if you found a therapist, or who you think you might want to go and see, who do you then contact to try and get your referral?
You know, that's such a brilliant question, because it's really confusing. So at the end of the day, now people may, with the recent legislation, put in the comments that they felt it was something different. But at the end of the day, if you're delivering therapeutic canine hydrotherapy, especially to your elderly arthritic dogs that are complex patients, because they usually have lots of underlying other medical conditions as well, it's absolutely paramount that you work within the legal framework. And the legal framework is interpreted in lots of different ways. And I interpret it that you need a referral from your vet. So you need a referral, or it could be a consent form, or now they're calling it a delegated from your vet, so, or an approval. So we do not see any clients at Canine HS if they do not have a current signed and dated referral form. So how they actually get that is different to have, you know, so it may come that the majority of our referrals come direct from vets, because we've been there a long time, they know us, and that we've built that over time. We've also had owners who've approached us individually, just phoned us up and said their story, and it kind of, you know, gets up. We sort of say, right, so the next step for you will be to download the referral form from our website and take that to your vet. And I find out who the vet is, and usually I know them. And so the way I set that up is that I don't take that referral form to the vets. And every practice is different, but usually there's multiple ways to get that referral. But the majority of people for Canine HS, because we've been there such a long time, you know, they get that form, and the vets hold the forms and they send it to us. So there's not like a right way and a wrong way. It's that we do insist that they have a vet referral form.
So there's contact then between the two.
It's paramount, because I also want to go back to the vets, build my professional trust and confidence with them. Then I'm part of their multidisciplinary team, and report back. And I want all that information. Agree. You know, I want that.
As a vet myself, I love having some sort of referral report back, because they actually, a hydrotherapist might have noticed something that I haven't noticed, and then I go, gosh, no, this will make sense, and now we can do something about that. And it's so important to try and get the information both ways, isn't it?
It is. And for safe hydrotherapy, you need to have the medical history of that dog. I need to know if they've got any heart issues. I need to know so many things. I need to know if they're diabetic. You know, I need to know so many different things that we find out from our assessment. And that starts with a conversation with the owner on the phone. And if I get the vet referral form and there's not enough information, I go straight back to the vet and have a chat, because, and usually they want to talk to me to tell me about the dog anyway. So, so for me, you know, if you're not asked for a vet referral and they just let you see without a vet referral, I would be concerned delivering canine hydrotherapy and physiotherapy, because we integrate our practice. So we deliver both in an integrated way. So how you get the form, usually each centre will have an amazing registration process where they'll say, download it here, or I'll send it to you. They'll have their own system. So you can check that out on not caninehscourses.com, but caninehydroservices.co.uk. We just have a process that we put on there so owners can see. It's 3 steps. It's dead easy. Download the form, you fill out the first bit, send it to your vet. They get it back to us, and it's all emailed these days. So there's no journeys unnecessarily, particularly at the moment about that. So, and owners can choose where they go. Owners have choices. So just like professionals have choices, owners have choices. So they can choose which centre they want to go, and they need to get that form from the centre and be part of that process.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what happens with us. Normally we have a chat, we say this is what's on offer in this area. An owner then does the research, and then we get the referral emailed to us. We fill it in, send it back to them, and then the appointment can be booked. But yeah, I mean, there are some cases that where a dog will come in and say, the owner will say, well, he's had hydrotherapy, and I think, well, not on my recommendation, you know. So it should definitely be from referral, and there should be some paperwork.
I'm glad you support me with that. Yeah, there should definitely be some paperwork and some exchange of information, and definitely as a professional, my responsibility, Nicki, is to come back to you and share with, you know, and I've got so many clients that we work really closely with the vets and the other people in the multidisciplinary team as well, because we're trying to create a management package for these wonderful elderly dogs. And, you know, we need to know what everybody else is doing and when, and work together to make the best package for the dog. So, you know, I feel really strongly that, you know, working as part of the multidisciplinary team, especially as an outpatient, so I'm not within a vet service, is critical to be able to deliver the service that we offer. Yeah,
no, I agree. Absolutely. So once you've got your referral, and you can still get hydrotherapy in COVID times, can't you? It's still happening.
Well, again, I think the professional associations gave out lots of very valuable information to their members, and then it's really down to members because to make those choices, and they've put in risk assessment, they've put in extra strategies and protocols to be safe. However, there may be some centres that have closed because their building doesn't lend to being able to. So, and there may be others that have got viewing corridors, viewing platforms, or like us, we put kind of CCTV inside our rooms watching us so they can watch it on devices outside. So you know, lots of places have worked around it, but it's really for those essential cases that people are usually delivering the service at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. Hopefully that's not going to be for much longer. So we're talking about when life gets better.
And I was going to say, that's the other thing really to consider, how hard it is for the canine hydrotherapists out there. It's a face-to-face, hands-on profession, just as vets, just as vet physios. We've been very hard hit. So again, I'd just like to say, I know some of our owners are here in the audience, how grateful we are for the loyalty of our clients who've waited. So we had to shut in the first lockdown, and then we put our protocols in place, and then we've reopened, but we're seeing essential cases. But it's really difficult times. It
is really difficult, and like you say, same for the vets and physiotherapists. Everything really is being touched. I've just got one question here from Laura. It says, "Hi,
hello,
all.
Laura.
Can I ask what if a vet recommends a centre different to the one I have selected?" So Laura, there is no that you don't have to do. If your vet says, "I want you to go to this one," it is completely up to you. There is no link or anything that means that you have to go to the one that the vet recommends. So don't ever feel like, I think if a vet recommends one, it's probably a good thing, because if they've used it before and they're happy with it, a vet recommendation, I would say, is a pretty good recommendation. But do not feel pressured that you have to use that one. You absolutely do not have to.
And the other thing is that there's new services popping up all the time, and they're you know, being run by people who've kind of finished their qualifications, they've got some experience, or they've been working somewhere else, and the vets might not be aware of all the services in that area, because it's a massive growth area in the animal industry. It's the biggest growth area in the whole of the animal care sector for the last 7 years.
Is it?
It's canine hydrotherapy. Yes. So
but we need it. We need it.
Yeah. So and I think it's grown out of market demand.
Yes.
So
So when you have chosen your hydrotherapy centre, and you've when you think about which hydrotherapy centre you want to choose, what are the kind of things then that we're going to go on to now that we should be looking for? And what can you expect to find at the hydrotherapy centre?
I think that's so important. So it's just like every research. When I go onto Holly's Army, I notice everybody's supporting each other as this amazing community and doing so much research. So this is where you need to do some research and find out about who is the therapist that's going to be trusted with your dog, and find out a little bit about them. So first of all, their professional qualifications are a starting point. It's not everything, but it's very helpful for you to understand, and the different qualifications, because there's lots of different qualification awarding bodies. ABC, it's SEG ABC Awards, have been in this industry and have a suite of hydrotherapy qualifications for the last 13 years. But there's other new qualification awarding bodies. So it's identifying that they've done something equivalent to a level 3 certificate in canine hydrotherapy, or a level 3 certificate in hydrotherapy for small animals is a starting point. That's your foundation stone for moving into this career. However, you may have a vet physio who is highly qualified at level 7, who's done a huge amount of canine hydrotherapy in their career. So they've got that experience and CPD, but the majority of them have got the level 3 certificate in canine hydrotherapy. It's kind of like the currency, I would say, in the UK. And that's kind of the level out in Australia and New Zealand and Ireland as well, which is kind of the foundation stone of you would want them to have that.
Okay.
So
that's useful.
People put everything on a qualification. A qualification is only as good as the experience and the CPD that goes with it. So it's kind of like everybody's individual. So you'd also want to find out their experience with, if you're going with senior dogs with arthritic problems, perhaps find out if that's something they've had other patients, you know, what they do. And also professionals have to hold a CPD portfolio, and they have to maintain that. So finding that out would reassure you that you are dealing with a professional therapist who's got qualifications, experience, and shows that they're committed to working in canine hydrotherapy. So, you know, you might have someone who's treating several species, or you might have someone who's dedicated and just treating dogs and working canine hydrotherapy. So those give you bits of information for the owner to make their choice.
Right. Yeah.
So
I mean, that's really important, actually, because like you said earlier, you may have a hydrotherapist that is very experienced or specializes in performance dogs, and that might not be suitable then. And it could be that just going a couple of miles further to a different one that you may never have heard of before, but is specialized in what you want it for, it would be better. So, just looking at their experience.
And the other way around, if you've got a high-end level 7 agility dog, you would want to go to someone who has that experience rather than someone who maybe focuses on another area of practice. However, you will have some amazing advanced canine hydrotherapists working at a really high level that have a huge portfolio and can offer all of those. So that's why you need to find out who is the person. It's no good if it's a website and pictures and you don't know who the person is. You really need to find out about that person, because they're the people with the skill that's going to work with your dog. The dog isn't treated by the pool, and it's not treated by the treadmill. It's treated by the therapist. They're hands-on techniques that they use within a water environment.
Yeah.
So I think.
So would you suggest going to look at the hydrotherapy centre?
Well, we offered that. So we've offered that forever and a day, like a 10-minute come and visit us, have a look round. And in the first few years when we were, we actually established Canine HS as a satellite training centre for the Royal Veterinary College. So we had a training programme in there. But I'm just passionate about clinical practice. And I actually thought, I wonder if anybody would come. It was before canine hydrotherapy was really happening. And, you know, and now we're closed. We've closed our registration because we are completely booked up solidly. Every day we're open for the last 6 years. I know. So, you know, and we built that database and trust, and that's about working with your vets really closely. But for me, I would want it to be a really friendly, open, caring kind of centre that wants to share what they feel their service is all about. So I feel that's really important. And then to see it, you can see it on videos. You could have someone, they can do a video cam. You need to see the water. You need to see the environment. You want to know what it's like. You don't want to turn up for your first experience and feel this isn't quite for me. So usually you have a chat with your therapist on the phone, they tell you about their service, and usually there's a meeting of the minds and they're going, this is what I'm looking for. And they've seen a bit on the website, but it's difficult in these times, but definitely taking going to see the therapist, meet them, look around the center will give you so much information if you feel this is definitely what I'm into. This is going to be perfect for me.
Yeah. And then I guess you want to be happy, and I think again, this comes back to what we should expect when we go, but we need to manage expectations, don't we, when we go to the hydrotherapy centre, and make it quite clear, I guess, when you're having the look round or when you're having that conversation, you need to be prepared as to whether you're coming in, whether you're not coming in, what your dog's got to have eaten that morning, what you've got to have done with your dog, which I know we're going to go on to at a later date, but you'd want to make sure, and I think you've kind of put this here about communication,
Yes.
You want to make sure you're getting all that communication, that you are confident with what you're going to get.
Absolutely. And the canine hydrotherapists, there's some amazing centres and some brilliant services, integrated services or separate services. They're going to have a discussion with you on the phone before you come. You might you'll have access to the terms and conditions, which I think I've put a little bit further down, which tells you information about the services and what you're committing to. And they'll give you that information and advice before you come, so you know exactly what to bring, to make sure your dog's been toileted, to make sure you haven't fed your dog. And depending on your dog, depending on the size of the dog and its underlying issues, that will be for different times. It's not like it's a fixed time, it's an hour or 2 hours. For a giant breed, with certain medical conditions, it's going to be for several hours either side. And for another dog, so that's something that the canine therapist is going to discuss with you before you turn up, and reiterate as you enter and check, because that's really important for safe practice and also for successful practice, where the session flows really well for you.
Yes. Yeah. And it's very individual. There isn't just one thing you can stick on your website and say, this is what's going to happen, because like you say, it's very different for size of dog, breed of dog, what the condition is, what if it's first or fourth session. It's all going to be really different, isn't it?
It really is. And that's where your skill, the skill base of the therapist, is making sure that information is available to the owner, that they feel supported. We have it in writing. So last year we opened Owner's Hub. It's like their own special website place to go, full of information. But your therapist may send you something. Usually they send you like the terms and conditions, and they'll send you some information of what to bring, but they'll also discuss it with you, and you should have a chance to sort of chat through your dog and your case. So it's really making that individual treatment program for each dog, and that's based on the assessment, and that starts from the moment they start chatting to you on the phone. So they're building that knowledge to make sure that they can deliver the best service to your dog.
So as far as the safety side of things, we're talking about the quality of the pools. There obviously different sizes of pools. Are there set sizes?
Well, this is so interesting. So having worked in human hydrotherapy, I was really shocked when I came into canine hydrotherapy. Why have they got such big pools? Somewhere along the line, I don't know if it's salespeople, you do not need a big pool for hydrotherapy, whether it's for human. This is for therapeutic canine hydrotherapy.
Yes. You're not swimming lengths, are you?
No. Well, I think historically there was like this idea that you did timed laps or time in the treadmill, but we've moved on from there. It's about an individual program and analysing the dog and making sure, because we all have great days and days that are not so great. So it's making that program for that session as well. So the water management's crucial. You've got to have safe water. The therapist is getting into the water, the dog's getting into the water. That water has to be safe. And for that to happen, there's a sanitization process, and there's also a disinfectant process of the environment. And that was in place before COVID. But since COVID, it's, stepped up tremendously. And the pool size, it's not about the size. It's never about the size. It's what the therapist does within that body of water. Okay, so because otherwise you're kind of saying, well, you need a really big pool, but we can have an underwater treadmill and it's tiny and that will work as well. That doesn't make sense. What it is are the treatment techniques that the therapist administers, with that dog, working with that dog in that body of water. So it's how that water is used. But wherever the body of water is, it needs to be sanitized and safe. And that is very rigorous. You're taking water tests 3 or 4 times a day. There'll be a water log. Everybody who kind of comes into Canine HS or goes to any professional, they can have access to those water logs to know that it's safe. And they're measuring different parameters that all kind of interlink with each other. And that's a huge part of a canine hydrotherapist's workload, is making sure that body of water is consistently safe, not just safe at 5 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning. So bodies of water can only be safe when you've got your sanitization levels at the required parameters. And if it goes out of that, then you can't deliver a service until you get that sorted, So that's a big part, I think, that's really important. But you will know if you go in and that looks mucky and murky and full of hair, it should look like that picture. That's our point. It should look inviting. It should look like you'd want to get into it. And, and it shouldn't be a funny color, or too cloudy. So
I think that is such a useful thing to know, because as a first time hydro visitor, you might just think, well, of course it's all going to look like that because it's had dogs in it. So that's normal, but it's not normal. It should not look like that.
Oh, I've actually got the comments on, and I've seen Susie Davies, who's come in. She says, Barbara, I test before each and every dog. I use around 8 times a day. We're loving that, Susie. Yeah, because we want to be safe, and we want to reassure owners that water is perfect for their dog. Yes. And also your professional therapist, if the person arrives and they know that water's not safe, and I've had to do it, a number of times over, last 14 years, I'm really sorry, my water's not quite right. We can't use that. We could use the treadmill or, so I've got alternatives because I've got both bits of equipment, but then I wouldn't really want to put a dog that's not had that experience in another bit of equipment so I would just say, I can offer you land-based, because unfortunately we're physiotherapists who specialize in hydrotherapy. So we can do that.
You have the beauty of both.
Because people have quite a drive where I am. It's very rural. As soon as I know, we will cancel. Like last week we had to cancel because we couldn't get to the clinic.
I saw that with all the snow.
Oh my gosh. Ice, no water, electricity cuts, and all we're going is our water quality. I'm responsible for a huge amount of water. So so we had to kind of get back on top of it. So
Oh, just things that we don't need. I mean, it won't happen again this year, so that will be fine.
So hoping not.
The other thing that Laura's brought up here is Laura and Chaos. It's also looking at the therapist-dog relationship. Barbara and Sarah constantly ask for Chaos's consent during treatment. They listen to her and respect her opinions and decisions. So she actively participates because she wants to, not because she's told to. And I think that's so important. And I think with that kind of thing, that's sort of spying on somebody else's session that you're going to pick up on that. But when people come and have a look around the hydrotherapy center or the hydrotherapy suite, I don't know what we call it, do you encourage them to bring their dog with them?
I do. When we always want to see, because it's a partnership between us and the owners and the dog. And and through my training programs as well, and all the formal lecturing I've done, but also all the different courses and CPD I offer, if you're involved with caninehscourses.com, the key thing is we work with the dog and we work with their consent, and that's how we work. And we use therapeutic handling, and they're skills that we share with any other professional that wants to know about it. And we are going to cover how the session goes on and what you'd be looking for. My key thing at this point on episode 1 would be ask if they are in the water with the dog. Honestly,
I was going to ask that, actually.
Have they got their hands on the dog? How does the dog get in and out of the pool or the treadmill? Have they got their therapeutic hands on that dog? Are they in the treadmill? Are they in the pool? And honestly, all highly qualified professionals are. I can tell you that now. But it's just something you should really find out And we can go in more depth about building that kind of trust and confidence, and why that's so valuable, probably more interesting for the professionals kind of listening in. That's so important to have that consent, because it means that the session has a very high proprioceptive value. That means we improve movement incredibly rapidly. So that's one of the amazing things about working with dogs, is that you get to build relationships with the dog and the owner, and we work together as a team. And I love that.
Yeah. And I think, again, that is a common question about what to expect and whether the therapist is going to be in the water or not. So that's just answered that. Yes, they
and
should
how do
be
they get in? You know, the horror stories of people where they've like had, you know, so are they free flowing and being handled into the water in a calm, focused way, you know, or, you know, that's really important. I think there's nothing more distressing than hearing, you know, secondhand some of the traumatic entries or exits with dogs. And the other thing is that, you know, finding out how long the sessions are and understanding your session isn't what's in the water. Your session starts from the moment you walk into that center with your dog to the moment you leave. And in that, you're going to have professional advice. You're going to have assessment, finding out how the dog is. You know, you're going to have the actual work in the water, but you're going to have other work as well. So everything that they do with the dog, if they're working with them with their consent and they're working therapeutically with therapeutic handling, you know, has value to that dog's movement. So sometimes the sessions within the water may be a few minutes, but there's so many health checks, and they're doing some very well-planned and organized treatment techniques. So it's going to be very individual for each dog. The main thing is it's safe, and the main thing is it's effective. You know, you should see a benefit after the session straight away. We see it within the session, never mind after the session. So, and if you're not, then the therapist will change that. They'll reassess and say, what's going on? Because, you know, it's very, very important that it's always beneficial and effective. Yes.
Yeah. And you can, I guess you can expect, with not every time, but you may be expected to do some stuff at home. You know, this isn't, it just doesn't finish as you walk out of the door. You're going to have some homework to do as well.
Every canine hydrotherapist, depending on their professional status, so if they're a veterinary physiotherapist and a canine hydrotherapist, are going to give particular advice. So everybody works what we call in their scope of practice. So, for example, Sarah is a canine hydrotherapist, an advanced canine hydrotherapist working at Canine HS. She's also a qualified veterinary physiotherapist at level 7. She's also a very experienced registered vet nurse, and she's got on multiple, so she could advise on diet. I can't, because I'm a vet physio and I'm a canine hydrotherapist, because that would be out of my scope of practice. So this is where the multi-qualifications are really interesting. So your canine hydrotherapist is going to give a customized fit home program for that dog within their scope of practice, but you're always going to get advice of what to do, or you know, avoid this. Yeah, definitely. So it's working with the owner is so important.
Yeah. What I'm going to do now, is there anything else you want to say about looking for in the hydrotherapy centre?
I think we've covered most of that, haven't we? I think people want to know how long sessions last. I think centres decide what they're going to work in. We offer an hour, but within that hour, a lot of different things happen, other people. So I think it's not so much you're paying for a therapist per minute, you're paying for that session, and you're paying for their skill base and their service. So it depends if they're integrating physiotherapy, which we often do, or if it's water-based. So, and a couple of other things there. What equipment is available? Because maybe it's been specified at some point that the vets have advised a particular piece of equipment, and we'll go through that in episode 3 a bit more, what that means. And really, like, are they wearing flotation devices or are they wearing harnesses? And again, we're going to go through that in episode 4 in quite a lot of depth. So those are the kind of questions, but I think we've kind of covered everything, really.
Yeah, so what I thought we would do, so, you know, if we haven't covered what you want to know specifically about canine hydrotherapy, tune in tomorrow, because there's some big stuff coming tomorrow. But just going through a couple of these questions, there was one that I just wanted to touch on. I don't know if you know too much about this. I think you probably will, but there was a question about international groups. So we were talking about the ones that you've showed there, the IRVAP, but are there ones that we should be looking for? Because obviously we have people here also from other countries?
Oh, well, I think like ACPAT, IRVAP, they all have international members as well, but really they've got to have a look, because what I've talked about is the legislation that is in the UK. Okay,
right.
so about vet referral, and so it's very UK based, that information about legislation. So that you really do have to look at your country and the legislation within it. So people who have come and trained with us, because we offer the level 3 certificate in canine hydrotherapy to help them, whether they're from Ireland, New Zealand, Australia, Austria, France, Spain. They come from all over, South Africa. Can you believe it? And they do have to look at the legislation that's in their country and look at the different associations. And usually they've got some, I mean, New Zealand's got the most amazing Canine Hydrotherapists Association that works really closely with the vet physios. So, you know, usually they have that, and they look at their own legislation for their health and safety. So the other thing is that professionals know all about it, but maybe owners don't realize part of their training is really looking in depth at the health and safety protocols and requirements. And in the UK, we've got COSH and RIDOR, and, you know, there's a whole group of legislation that all the hydrotherapists abide by, have protocols and evidence that in their management of their centre as well. That's a whole other area of practice.
Yeah, but there will be equivalent organisations and legislation.
There should be. Yes. Yeah.
So it's just looking up in those areas. I'm just going to go through a few more of these here. So Andrew's written, there is an International Association of Animal Therapists.
I think this is the thing when we're talking about canine hydrotherapy. There's lots of, I don't want to offend anybody if I've missed anybody's group out. Everybody's quite politically sensitive in this area. I'm trying to be like the peacemaker here. I'm talking about canine hydrotherapy. And canine hydrotherapy, there's kind of 3 big organizations that are representing hydrotherapists, because they need specific qualifications and specific skills with water management that maybe somebody. So I'm a vet physio of IRVAP, but I'm also in the ICH. So I'm also a canine hydrotherapist. Yeah. So I have two sort of post nominals after my name, and there'll be another person who's a vet physio, but they'll concentrate on equine and maybe do a few dogs. And there'll be somebody else, you know, so we have such a wide range of professionals working in this. Yeah. So for canine hydrotherapists, you know, it's so moved on from that idea of doing laps or times, which was sort of happening 15 years ago, to
I never knew that.
Yeah, it's assessment-led individual treatment programs for each dog. And that's what you're looking for when you've got a wonderful elderly 16-year-old border collie, you know, because this is important that it's safe. You can't be prescriptive. It's not prescriptive. It's something that's customized for each owner. And also owners have so many questions and they need so much support. And it's whether you get that as an owner as well. So you're kind of looking at the whole service they offer, not just the aquatic bit.
Definitely. And I just got some more there.
I'm watching lots of names there. And I know Sarah's been busy in the chat, so thank you so much. Hello. I mean, I've got people from Poland, got so many different people there. I'm seeing the names. It's just brilliant.
No Hydrotherapist Association in Poland. Okay, so Paul has written great info on this session. I'm sorry about this, Paul. We always have delays in the local vets signing referral forms, which then delays treatment and gets very frustrating. If it's in this current time, I sympathise with the vets, because there's not enough hours in the day for hydrotherapists, physio, vets to do everything that we have to do right now, as it is for many people trying to work at this time. But normally, I would just have a word with them and let your vet know, you know, this is really important to you, and this is really important to your dog in particular, and for part of their multimodal treatment. So just have a word with them and say that this is really, could you just make this a little bit more urgent on your to-do list? And I'm sure if somebody said that to me, I would just feel awful that I'd allowed that to happen. So speak to them. They will sort it out, I'm sure.
But Nicki, I just want to flag up that showing that Paul, his professionalism is superb, because he's not seeing that dog without the referral. Okay, it's delaying the treatment. He is waiting for that referral before he starts. And these are the kind of things that really should reassure owners, you know, and it's not that we're trying to put people in awkward positions, but we will not see a dog until you've got that referral or it's been updated as well. So it needs to be relevant to the current situation of the dog. So
Definitely.
I think it's a professional.
We have just a little question about wanting to do physio at home, not hydro at home. I want to be able to do this for my dogs at home with the right equipment. Obviously, I need to find a course that will support me if possible. Okay, well, yeah, if you have any questions about that, I don't know about hydrotherapy at home and what you'd need to do, but I would say possibly emailing Barbara would be your best bet.
There's two things here. So lots of owners do some home program and they may have been shown or directed to do something depending on the breed of the dog. I mean, if it's a small dog and you've got a butler sink or, you know, as part of a home program or a shower session. But if you're talking about buying equipment and doing that with your dogs at home, the level 3 certificate in canine hydrotherapy is the foundation stone for safe practice. Because everybody wants to do the very best for their dog, and lots of people will do that course, and they're saying, "I've got my equipment, I've got the money to buy it, I've set it all up," but they don't know how to use it. So it's incredibly important that they do it safely for their dogs.
Definitely. So yeah,
I saw a comment ages ago, and it just says it's not rocket science. Put it in the pool, and I'm going, oh my goodness. Seriously, if you knew the training that all the canine hydrotherapists do, it's extensive, and it's a really a comprehensive course. Yes, be really careful, because you would just well-intentioned attempts that don't go well would just be devastating for you. So just find lots of different providers. Go shopping and find out the nearest you. Yeah, do your research, and hopefully that works out really well. Hello Claire, she's joined.
Yeah, you see that. So I'm going to wrap this up for this evening, but please do come and join us again. We're going to be here again tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock, the two of us, still looking glamorous. If anyone wants to comment how good I'm looking too, that's fine. But for this evening, I hope you'll enjoy the rest of your evening. Think of any questions that you might have. If you have anything about this evening's chat, then bring it tomorrow as well. That's fine. Or comment here, and I will keep checking the comments over the course of the next 24 hours. So yeah, have a good evening, everyone, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you so much, Barbara.
Nicki, before you turn off, I was just going to say, if you collect all the questions, we can make sure they go in the poster further down. I just want to make sure everybody gets their question answered. That's so important. Okay.
Yeah, no, definitely. I will speak to you in a second anyway when we finish this. Anyway, see you all tomorrow. Take care. Bye.
Bye.